quote unquote. Here I am getting pregnant before marriage. I'm supposed to be a CrossFit Games athlete. I just found out I'm pregnant. I have to retire now. Everything that I knew about my life kind of came crashing down.
You were just gaining confidence as the workout went on, and you were like, okay, I'm tired, but I think I can go faster.
Everybody talks about like, you're so joyous on the field. How do you do it? And like, I know what it's like for 5 years to try and go to the games and not make it. I know what it's like to want to be on the floor, want to have your jersey. So I don't take that lightly because I know every competitive CrossFit athlete wants that.
Today's guest is the third fittest woman on earth.
I also can support my family as a quote unquote stay-at-home mom. And to me, that's just the coolest thing ever because I truly feel like I have the best job I could ever ask for.
And the fittest American woman, making her second appearance on the show, none other than Arielle Loewen.
Our third place female athlete is Arielle Loewen.
And I had to physically say out loud, I'm the third fittest on the planet. I went to the games and competed. And even saying it out loud, I have trouble because it's like, this can't be real.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I love how you said the title. Everybody throws in the mom card. So I like put massive respect that you were just like, she's the fittest. And it's that. In America.
Something that that stands out to my mind in this world that we live in, other than challenging societal norms a little bit, is I try not to assign respect or a title to somebody based on what could be perceived as an occupation or something that brings down the totality of the caliber. And I think, it's amazing that you're a wife and a mom, and more importantly, you're a human being first. And I think that's why it's so incredible to know that, you are the fittest American woman currently and the third fittest woman on the planet. I wanted to say it again to make sure that it really stuck there a little bit, but looking at you and seeing that ear to ear smile, when you hear those words after the journey that you've gone on, what's the first thing that kind of comes to mind?
The first thing is disbelief. I still have to have a reality check. Did the games actually happen? Did I really end up on the podium? My friends were awesome. And this past Sunday, they threw me a congratulation party here in Midland. We had a bunch of people come. And it was at a public venue. So people would show up and I had this big old number 3 on my shirt. And they're like, what's the number 3 stand for? And I had to physically say out loud, I'm the third fittest on the planet. I went to the games and competed. And even saying it out loud, I have trouble because it's like, this can't be real. This can't be my life. So I'm still coming to terms with what just happened.
Absolutely. And obviously, third fittest woman on the planet is incredible. And I'm really excited to recap some of your CrossFit Games 2023 experience. But as I mentioned previously, you are currently the fittest woman in America. And you are self-coached. And you don't necessarily fit the traditional narrative that so many of these other athletes fit, where they're full-time athletes, they're part of training camps. Every element of their life is associated with training and recovering.
Right.
And you're a little bit different than that. How does that make you feel knowing that you kind of did it your way?
I love it. It's the first time in my career where I don't have to say like, this person is the reason for my success. I can just say, hey, I worked hard. I did it unconventionally, but it worked out. I'd like to, everybody complicates it. Like, you need to eat this, you need to sleep this, you need a training camp here. But I'm like, if you just work hard, it's not, don't complicate it. Show up in your gym, work hard, this year was just so different for me because I did transition from having a programmer to being self-programmed, from going to a large gym to working out in my home gym. So there were a lot of variables that I didn't know how were going to play out until I was on the floor competing at the games. And it was like every event was just, I do know what I'm doing. Oh, I am actually fit. Oh, this is working. And kind of self-discovery of the long, hard, grueling process was worth it. And it was so rewarding in the end.
I love to hear that. And I really admire what you said about the simplicity. Mm-hmm. I really do think simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. and the complexity of everything just adds paralysis by analysis, makes it harder than it should be.
Right.
The barriers to entry are challenging, and then, compliance becomes challenging because, everything has so many different additional things that get added into the mix.
Right.
And I really admire that you're really mastering the simple things. And when it comes to your athletic development, I'm just curious, just to recap from our previous episode, what is some of your athletic background? Because it just seems to me that when I watch you out there, you have exposure to a lot of different modalities. You're very good at the handstand stuff, obviously, but this year in particular, like, you moved the pig.
Thank you.
You were right on Emily Rolfe's tail on the running event. And it's just so cool to see how you've expanded your toolbox, but it had to start from somewhere.
Yeah. So I was kind of like every CrossFitter story. I was a gymnast growing up. I was from about age to 5 to 16. I did gymnastics competitively. So like what you see on the Olympics, bars, beam, vault, floor. After 16, I went through a little bit of a mental block and kind of got scared of all the skills in gymnastics. So I quit gymnastics and moved on to cheerleading. So in cheerleading here in Texas, we lift up girls, we do stunts, we kind of throw them in the air. So I did that for a little bit. And then in high school, I ran track and actually did the hurdles. And I made it to state for hurdles when I lived in Nebraska at the time. So I did a little bit of track.
Oh, cool.
I was never like a 100-meter sprinter or a mile runner, but I could do the medium distance of like the 300 hurdles really well. Then I did powerlifting for a season in high school. And then after high school is when I found CrossFit. And it was like the perfect balance of everything I grew up doing. And I actually was a diver for a time. I forgot about that. And I did it for 1 year and I was completely terrified of it because my coach, it's kind of like CrossFit. Let's do a 5,000 meter run. If it's written on the board, you're going to do it. And you never know someone's potential unless you push them too far. My diving coach was very similar to that. I was always willing to do it, so he pushed me a little too far. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm done.
Wow. That's a great toolbox, though. When you look at the energy system of a 300-meter run, that's pretty like broad and inclusive. There are both aerobic and anaerobic components. It also teaches you to hurt a little bit.
Right.
There's a mindset component, which it sounds to me that you're incredibly even keel across so many modalities just because of gentle exposure. But also what's so cool to me is the fact that you have this supreme confidence in just kind of being very intrinsic. You're not necessarily looking for external validation.
Right.
I love that when you enter the competition floor, you're looking for Dylan. You give him the little shout out.
Right.
And what's interesting, though, is like you don't have a ton of training partners. You have some people that come over and join you on occasion, and they jump in and help support. But it's not the traditional like, oh, that's the person that I'm going to push on gymnastics. That's the person that's going to push me on weightlifting. Right. What is that like? Because there is a psychological component that is comparative.
Right. So my biggest thing, I've had a lot of, I call them helicopter moments as I've done my games career. So an example was when I was with a programmer, I would get mad frequently and I had to come home from the gym and have a helicopter moment of, why did I come home mad? And it would be because this person was talking to me on the bike and was saying, hey, you're at 65 cadence, go faster to 70. And it would make me mad because I'm like, man, I'm working really hard right now. I know what I'm doing. Like, please don't talk to me. Just let me focus. So I had to really self-reflect of, why am I mad at this person? They just want me to be better. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get rid of one of the variables, which is this programmer, and I'm going to work out at home and see if I could make the internal voice do what he was trying to do. Because I realized the only voice I'll listen to is the one inside of me that's like, I know your legs are on fire, but can you do one more rep? I know your lungs are on fire. Can you go a little bit harder? So this past season, I tapped into an internal voice, which is my mind encouraging me, telling me to go faster. And I need that more than I need 5 different training partners. Like, I love having one person there to suffer with me just so I'm not alone in the garage and it can keep me accountable. But I've really tried to tap into listening to myself And because honestly, like that's the only person on the floor with me in every competition. And if I can be pushing the boundaries of myself, that's how I truly feel like I improved so much this past year.
Wow, the power of self-reliance.
Right.
That's incredible. Did you come across that as a thought experience thought experiment rather, trying to self-reflect some of the reasoning as to why am I upset when I come home? You know, there is a community component that's really important to this sport and my development, but there's also the counter argument to that, which is I have no boundaries. People are always being relatively invasive. You know, I'm already, busy in my day-to-day life. I just want this personal time to pursue my peak expression in the sport that I love.
Exactly. There were like 2 moments that made me self-reflect that like, okay, I need to work out from home without a coach. One of them was the year before at the games. My former coach was amazing, super supportive. It just was time to leave when on one of the events I was doing handstand push-ups and my arms were like absolutely fatigued on the blocks. Do you know what I'm talking about? And I just remember him screaming over the sidelines, do singles. And instantly I was like, I'm going to do 3 reps just to show him he doesn't understand what my body is going through. And I know it better than you do, screaming at me like what I took as a fool. And so in that moment, I did 3 reps just to show him, like, you don't know my body. I'm doing what I need to succeed in this event. And I had a helicopter moment and was like, that was so rude of me to like cuss at him in my brain, make him feel silly for yelling at me. I was like, just to keep the peace and keep the friendship, I'm going to part ways. And then the other one, man, I don't even remember where I was going with the other one. I'm sorry. But that was one moment.
I think it's really good reflection, though. And I appreciate you labeling them as helicopter moments because I think we all have those.
Right.
We just don't always like self-identify with them. They're a little embarrassing. So we try to like let go of them sooner rather than later, but they can be defining moments if you sit with them a little bit. And you wonder why. And you're curious around, okay, why was I feeling this way? I also think it's relatively intriguing that certain types of communication to you, whether it's considered negative self-talk, some sort of negative bantering or cheering on as if you're not trying to go faster, it almost appears to me that you internalize that as a little bit patronizing, which is interesting. It's not necessarily good or bad. I think the intent from the outside is to like help push you, motivate you, and inspire you.
Right.
But how it's received is very different.
Exactly.
And it just goes to show that like communication it's an approximation of what we're trying to convey. What I say and what you hear might be completely different. And I think there's something that is really interesting about that component to the human experience.
It is. And what's powerful about the helicopter moment is in that moment, I can say, this person really wants the best for me and they're trying to help. Why am I not perceiving it like that? And I've had this conversation with my husband as well, because he used to cheer for me, go faster, you can breathe later, like encouraging stuff. In his brain, it motivates him. But in my brain, I hear that as you're not going fast enough. You need to push harder. You're not pushing hard enough. So we've had to even change the way he cheers for me at the events, because he'll say things like that. But now he'll say, you look strong. You're doing great. Keep going. Stuff that I hear in my brain is like, thank you. I do feel strong. I am doing good. I will keep going. I need positive reinforcement rather than what my brain partakes as negative.
That's so cool. It's so interesting too, because I think more coaches and athletes need to have this conversation. You know, now with training camps and whatnot, coaches are responsible for a wide array of athletes, and you can't coach them all the same. You got to meet people where they're at. Everybody's going to have or want or need a different communication strategy. And in your case, it's cool that you were able to create clarity of this is what I need. This is what actually makes the engine go faster.
Exactly.
And the other stuff serves as like check engine light comes on and wants to come over and destroy you.
Exactly. And we've had a few check engine moments when my husband and I were first learning, CrossFit together. It's it can bring people closer or it can tear them apart. So he would cheer for me like that. And in one of the open workouts, I turned to him and just said, shut up. And it was like, okay, we will get in a fight about this later, but I can't handle it right now.
Yeah,
So
totally.
but it's like a love language. I might give you a gift, but if you're not a gifts person, it's going to mean nothing for you. So just learning what works for you, what works for me. So just needs are met.
Totally. It also shows that like in the midst of a workout, it's a stress response, right? And it sounds to me too, like Dylan's played such a pivotal role in being a supporter of you and vice versa in different capacities, in different ways. But what's also interesting is just not taking things personal, not being so sensitive, and, having that moment of like, shut up. Yes, it's a public environment. Yes, it hurts in the moment. Yes, it sucks.
Right.
But it's also like, hey, it's a stress response. We'll discuss this later. We'll iron out the wrinkles and it's all going to be okay because there's mutual respect, love, and appreciation for one another.
Exactly. And that was at a time when we were dating. So that would have been a red flag of like, if we can't get past this, then communication and stuff is not working. So it's good to have those conversations dating to figure out, okay, how will we do this married?
That's cool. Mm-hmm. What's your guys' experience been, as you've navigated the ranks? And it seems like year after year, Arielle, you're getting better and better, which means responsibilities increase, notoriety increases.
Right.
Blakely's getting older. You guys are now fully comfortable and settled into your new home. Trident Coffee is sponsoring this episode of the Invictus Mindset Podcast. My guys over at Trident taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good and bad, and everything in between. At Trident, they're storytellers. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They help create connections through symbology and storytelling that engage their customers on an emotional level, and this distinguishes them from other coffee brands. You can find Trident in Imperial Beach and in Coronado. They offer over 14 plus nitro cold brews along with dairy-free options. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from their keto bakery. All these options will allow you to support your health and fitness journey with Trident Coffee. They're more than just a coffee company. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Once again, that's tridentcoffee.com. Use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Take your coffee experience to the next level. Two important factors for us over at Invictus Mindset are true care and attention to detail. My friends over at RX Smart Gear have been bringing innovative fitness tools to the market since 2009. From their award-winning Evo speed ropes, to their amazing gymnastics grips, to their line of inflatable fitness equipment, they're constantly looking to problem solve within the fitness industry. They're always allowing us to have our gear work for us rather than against us. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use discount code Invictus Mindset to shop their latest cutting edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you. What has that meant for your guys, growth and development personally and making time for one another and simultaneously being there as really valuable support systems for each other's unique journeys? Yeah,
he's tremendous support system for me when we're at the games and at events. Like mentally, he goes above and beyond. I don't even know how to describe it, but I know if I walk on the floor and I see him there, it just gives me peace. Backstage, we switch roles dramatically to where I'm like, oh, I need a water. He'll bring me a water. Whereas when we're at home in the real world, quote unquote, he's the provider, the one quote unquote at the games, whatever he needs, I help him. So it's fun that we kind of switch roles when it comes time for me to shine. But 90% of the time when we're at home in Midland, it's his time to shine and I'm serving him. And I think it helps keep me humble and focused on what's important. I come home and get third place But guess what? The next day I'm still cooking dinner for my family because if I don't do it, nobody will. It's not like my life has changed drastically, but it's helped to have him here. He obviously built the house we live in. He built the garage gym. So he keeps me humble to know like, yeah, you got third, but it would have never happened if I didn't build you this awesome gym. It's a fun balance that keeps it lighthearted and fun. I think before in regionals, I took it way too seriously. Now it's fun and it's an addition to my life and I really enjoy it. And I feel like that translates to my performance at home and on the floor.
I love that you said it's an addition to your life, right? Like so many people, and I really happy you said that because this is where I wanted to take the conversation next. They associate their function with their identity.
Right.
Right? Like, hey, if I get, this place on the leaderboard, that depreciates my self-worth. And, it's led to this whole mental health epidemic that's really challenging where, you could probably add in body composition challenges, social media challenges, comparative analysis, all kinds of things that now create really messy ping pong in between the years.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the identity conversation associated with performance and outcome within the CrossFit space?
It's relevant, which is weird because I don't understand it. So when athletes came out and expressed like, hey, I won't compete this year because of this, I don't know that pressure. So I don't understand what's going through their brain, but I'm like, wow, it must be extremely serious if it led you to this outcome. I know you just did an episode with Haley. I'd love to go back and listen to understand more because I think it helps for me having a family and a daughter that keep me very much so plugged into like my real world, not the CrossFit real world on social media, but I don't understand it.
Yeah, totally. It's hard to empathize a little bit. You'd probably have to take yourself back to regionals version of yourself to better understand. Younger pre-kids, also like the evolution of social media and certain pressures that come along with that of deliverables to brands or needing to hit certain expectations. I think the expectations are what elicit a lot of challenge, but also looking back, like these athletes are so young.
They are.
Right? So the pressure's starting, when they're teens and they're not having the traditional, hey, on Friday night, I finished school and, maybe did a little workout and then I went to the movies with my friends. It's Friday night, I finished school, hit a workout, recovered for a little bit, and then did my zone 2 cardio, in the garage or something like that. And it changes the traditional human experience. I don't think it's right or wrong per se. It's not my place to judge.
Right.
But it is different where there's not as much play and it's very much like serious energy system development and needing to recover and becoming professionals, quite frankly, before people are ready to enter that world.
Right. Well, and it's weird. If I look back when I was a teenager, I wasn't working out. I was just doing sports and that was my fitness. I don't know about you, but I didn't start working out, quote unquote, going to the gym till I was out of high school. So I don't know what it's like to be in high school and have the pressure to work out, because for me, high school was just, okay, I'm a cheerleader. I ran track. Now I go home. So I think that's a part of it. I don't even know what that's like.
No, totally. I think for most people, like working out kind of helps support their sport, right? At that age, it's like, oh, I'm working out so I can be, stronger. So I'm not getting pushed around in basketball, football, or soccer or something like that. Or, hey, the hurdle is relatively high. I need a little bit more strength development in my legs for a little more power. There's kind of a rhyme and a rhythm and a reason specific to not just performance orientation in a sport, but also like it's an experiment. It's also like, oh, I get to do something that the adults do. And it's like play and kind of tinkering, I guess, rather than this is the numerical value that I need to hit if I want to make the next level of competition.
Right. It's deep stuff. And I think
it really is.
When I've done more research into it, it is exactly what you touched on, the social media side of it, the friends side of it. They're just getting the CrossFit, not the like full on living their life at that time.
Something that's also really interesting on this topic, and it very much relates to you, is when you become so obsessive about one thing, right? Like too much of anything kind of becomes a bad thing. And so I do think that it is important to have things outside of the main thing, right? Like if you take a traditional human, like if all they do is their job all the time, they're going to get burnt out inevitably, right? And it's going to feel overwhelming. All you're going to think about is work. You need to step away from. There's a reason why, you know, the traditional 8 to 5, there are parameters associated with time. And it's interesting to see and take a look at, hey, maybe it's important to step away. And as you've said many times, less is more.
Yeah.
There needs to be some time constraints so that way you can step away and you can focus on, in your case, spending time with your family, cooking for your family, maybe adventures with friends, a lunch date, maybe doing things outside of your traditional job, right?
Right.
And that gives you purpose and motivation, and also this access to a different part of your brain that can be developed where there may be creativity, or in your case also like wanting to organize the home, wanting to make it special for optimal function, but also mental clarity in the sense of, as you described offline, when things are organized, you can think a lot more clear. It's
Right.
very much directly correlational to how organized you are in your headspace.
Right. Well, and if I'm only at work, quote unquote, in the gym for 2 hours, my intentionality is different too. It's not, okay, I've got 5 hours to warm up, stretch, do it. It's like, okay, I'm here. I show up, I work hard. Now I'm done. I close the door and I figuratively and actually like walk out of the gym, and I'm done with the gym for that session. It helps me compartmentalize. Like, this is important for this amount of time. Now move on to the next thing. Move on to the next thing. Then I don't dwell too long in one place.
If it's always available, you don't respect it as much.
Exactly. Got to play hard to get just a little bit with the gym.
I like that. How do you compartmentalize? I think that's a really good skill. That can be a nugget for people to pull from our conversation today. It's really hard.
It is hard.
Sometimes the lines get blurred. Sometimes, you know, there's emotions that get mixed with logic. There's personal and professional. How do you kind of create strong boundaries? And then, you know, for you specifically, what are some of the buckets that you kind of compartmentalize into?
Yeah, boundaries was the first word I was going to use. So you used it too. I've learned to make boundaries based on experience going bad where there were no boundaries. So for example, my work time in the gym time is usually from about 11 to 12, 11 to 1, we'll say, on a normal, not competing for the games. And I've learned to set a boundary of, if I want to do a podcast, if I want to go to lunch, if I want to meet up with someone, grocery shop, it happens after the gym happens. So if you text me, let's meet up at 12, I'm like, hey, I can't. I have workout, but I will meet up at 2. So just setting boundaries of, important to me is working out. So I will set up a boundary there. Another important one to me is like going to Blakely's gymnastics every Thursday at 5:00. So if you invite me to do anything, I will say, no, I'm showing up for my daughter at this time. So, but that only happens if I know what's important to me and what I need to happen. I've learned it through helicopter moments of like, why am I stressed right now? Oh, I put too much on my schedule. I also learned training for the games, I can only have one thing a day. If I had to grocery shop and meet up with a friend at 3 and do this, I'm overwhelmed and it kind of ruins my day. So I mentally could only handle one thing a day when it came to games training.
Mm-hmm. I admire that. It's not always easy to say no. Mm-hmm. But another big takeaway from what you just said is since you're grocery shopping after working out,
right,
you're notoriously going to the grocery store hungry.
True.
How does that work out?
I'll clarify, I have to eat lunch first and then I'll grocery shop. But I do, after I'm training, especially for the games, I do my cardio piece and then strength work, and I come in and for at least 20 minutes until I have food, like I can actually self-identify that I feel like an angry, bad mom because I'm like, I'm so hungry. I'm sorry. I need food. And then once I eat, I'm like, okay, I can relax. Because part of recovery for me is I need to fuel. I'm hungry. I need to fuel my muscles. I need to fuel my stomach growling at me. So I have to self-identify like, I'm sorry, Blakely. I was angry, but I was really hungry.
That's funny. You briefly mentioned there that you'll do a cardio piece and then you'll lift.
Always.
Traditional strength and conditioning, flips that, and typically wants from an energy system standpoint for you to lift first and then do cardio second.
Right.
Obviously, it's advantageous in the sport of CrossFit to get your lifting in under fatigue.
Right.
But also, it's incredibly important, in my opinion. I like doing the cardio pieces first too, just because it lubricates my joints. It gets my nervous system aroused a little bit, gets me ready to go to lift something heavy versus the traditional way. And I think it's fun to poke and pry of like, this is how it's always been done. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't.
So I love that you do that, but I'm curious, like, just your thought process, because you said always.
Yeah.
Are there times that you flip the script a little bit, or are you pretty stringent on like, that's how I do it?
It's how I do it, because I'm like you. Number one, I don't love warming up, and I hate it. I hate it. I can avoid injury if I do the cardio piece first and then my strength stuff. Number two, if you look at the games, when do we ever lift fresh? We never do. So if I just get used to training my muscles and still increasing percentages, like if I did 70% on Monday, the next Monday I'll do 80%. So still getting used to the heavy load under fatigue. And then also, I feel like 90%, 95% of CrossFit is cardio. There was only one strength event this year on its own, which was event 9, the Olympic lift. If I can be good at cardio, moving fast, moving anything, running faster, muscle upping faster, I'm going to do good at CrossFit, because 11 of the events were cardio based. Only one was actually strength based. So I try and prioritize moving faster, more muscle ups, more this, more that under fatigue. Strength will come, but strength is also a slow building process. I'll just stay consistent with that and then try and improve my cardio all around.
Do you think that's a little bit of a programming bias of the sport? That I think back in the day, we saw the outlaw way being a major part of the programming world, where Olympic lifting was a huge part of the sport at one point. Now it's evolved a little bit. Or would you say that things that were traditionally like strength endurance and considered weightlifting modalities, everybody in the field is just so good at them that it's become a cardio game because of that?
Exactly. And I also think, I don't know, if I just look at this game's programming, it seemed like they were trying to stay away from the barbell as much as possible. Because they're like, we've seen the barbell, it's been done. This is what's going through my head. We only had the Olympic total with the barbell, and then thrusters, if you count that as barbell cycling. So this game's actually played in my favor, because I've been working on moving faster cardio pieces, body weight stuff, and that's what majority of this game's was. I almost feel like they've done the barbell so much, now they're like, what different stuff can we do besides the barbell?
It's a really interesting observation. I wonder a little bit, is it to try to diversify and test different modalities specifically at the games? Because obviously you need the barbell a little bit in the open,
right,
and in semifinals. So you definitely have to have that tool in your toolbox. This episode is brought to you by HVMN, Health via Modern Nutrition. They launched the world's first ketone drink in 2017, and then in 2022 launched the version 2 of their exogenous ketone product line called Ketone IQ. I found that incorporating ketones into my morning routine increased my daily focus and energy. The beauty of this product is that you can stack it. It doesn't even have to replace your morning routine. My morning routine looks like taking the dog on a walk, hitting my daily shot of Ketone IQ, hopping in the cold plunge, and then finishing it off with a nice Trident coffee while I soak up some morning sunlight. Try out some ketones for yourself by using the code Invictus for 20% off Ketone IQ. Ketones are a super efficient fuel for your brain that leaves you feeling energized and clear-headed. Give it a shot. I promise you won't regret it. Once again, use code Invictus for 20% off Ketone IQ. Move fast and break shit. This is one of the core values at LSKD and something that we fully resonate with here at the Invictus Mindset Podcast. LSKD develops functional sportswear with a streetwear aesthetic that's on a mission to inspire you to chase the vibe through sport, fitness, and adventure. Through my experiences with LSKD products and their team members, I have found a brand that I can call home that keeps me performing at my highest level through fitness and business. I train daily in the rep shorts and love the versatility they offer, so I can go from training at the gym directly to meetings, client consults, running errands, or preparing for podcasts. The LSKB vibe has finally reached San Diego, and we want you to experience it too. Go to us.lskd.co to start shopping today. We want to inspire you to chase the vibe. But I also wonder from like a marketing standpoint, is it to try to sell more toys to people? Is it, an actual test of variance and trying to move certain awkward objects? What are your thoughts there? Because the barbell can be very important, but also I think we saw that huge shift during the COVID year when many people didn't have access to a barbell and the dumbbells became very prevalent.
Right. It's interesting because the games has its own programming, but if I look ahead at Rogue, there will be a barbell, there will be barbell cycling. So it's just depending on what competition you're at, the game seems to favor the odd object. What new thing can we do? But Rogue very much is the classic, we will have a barbell. There will be multiple events with a barbell. It's hard in the marketing scheme of things because if I look at the sandbag total from last year or the sandbag clean, I would love to see the numbers of how many sandbags they sold that they've never sold before. I don't know if that goes through their head or if they're trying to test something different. But I know personally about 4 different people who just live in Midland who said, oh, I want to try lifting a 200-pound sandbag. I just bought one. So I'd love to see the numbers behind that side of it too.
Well, totally. It definitely elicits marketing awareness, perks the eyebrows a little bit around something new, something different.
Right.
And that particular event also got a ton of notoriety. When you look back at all the events that you took part in here at the 2023 CrossFit Games, what was your absolute favorite event that really stood out to you as like, that was a blast? I was really feeling excited and happy in that moment.
Mentally, the 5K was a lot of fun, but that was only because I surprised myself and broke my own expectations of how hard I've been training and working on running. But the event that was the coolest as far as flow, doing it, was event 10, which was the ring muscle ups and logs. Because I thought it was so interesting. It was like you have 5 sandbags, get them over the logs, do your muscle ups. It was very straightforward. I thought personally fun to do as it progresses on the field. And when we went back and watched, I thought it was fun to watch as a spectator as well.
It showed like the progressive moving forward and also combined a little bit of grunt work. Yep. The aesthetics of the log looked really cool as well. Mm-hmm. And then had like a nice flowy ringy dingy or skill.
Yep. And
that I think looks cool to the human eye.
Yeah. And it's very practical. If you want to say functionality in CrossFit, you've got this bag of dog food, throw it over the fence. Like you can play it in. Now you've got to get over the fence. Practical, fun stuff that I feel like we would do as a kid.
Were you thinking that while you were doing the workout that you're throwing dog food over the fence and
I
hopping
wish.
over the fence?
No, but my strength coach, who I briefly mentioned, loves to throw weird skill pieces at me just to work on, let's say like a 2-minute AMRAP. He actually programmed sandbag clean and jerks with a 100-pound sandbag. Just getting under a sandbag, can you hold it overhead and jerk it? So I thought that very much translated to that event, to where I was like, okay, my strength coach is thinking of weird things. What will they throw at us? He programs it. It's not silly. It actually translated very well to the games.
That's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
When you're referencing him, how does your working relationship look like with him, and who is he? He seems to be the secret man behind the scenes that might be helping with some of your strength progressions.
He's awesome. Picture someone who has an amazing house, a garage gym in the back, but doesn't buy a belt. He just uses a string. Shoes are like the Nano first edition with holes in them. He doesn't care about material things. He's the strongest person I know, but he when I first started CrossFit, he owned the CrossFit I went to back in 2012. And I couldn't afford CrossFit at the time. So I went up to him, who was the owner. His name's Brian. And I was like, Brian, I love CrossFit, but I'm 18, just graduated high school. I can't afford this. Is there anything I can do? So I actually would clean their sweat towels in exchange for a membership, clean the gym. And then he basically taught me everything I know about ring muscle ups, weightlifting, butterfly pull-ups. In his gym was the first time I ever did CrossFit and learned how to do double unders, learned how to do ring muscle ups. And then I since went to college, started a family, and then came back to Midland a few years later. Back in probably October, because it was election year, I ran into him at the library of all places. And I hadn't seen him probably in 5 or 6 years since I had retired, had Blakely, gone to the games twice, and then I ran into him at the library. And I had been searching for a strength coach, just a coach who knows what they're doing, because I feel comfortable with cardio pieces, chest to bar, stuff like that, but I don't have any knowledge on how to build strength. And I, of course, ran into him. Such a God moment. We reconnected and I approached him like, hey, I don't know if you noticed, I'm at the games now. I would love if you could help me build strength. And he went back and watched all my footage, which I think this is amazing. He watched the games, he watched Rogue, he watched Wadapalooza, and he was like, these are the areas that you're weak. These are the muscles that are weak. I will build you a strength program to build those muscles. So this season, off season, I just spent all building, like my hamstrings were weak. My pulling from the floor muscles were weak. My bench press pushing muscles were weak. So I was legit on a push-pull cycle. Monday was push, Tuesday was pulling from the floor. And it's the first time I've ever had a specific individualized strength program just for me. And I really do think that played a huge difference going into the games.
I love that he watched all the footage.
Isn't that
and
amazing?
Took the time to assess you as an athlete. I mean, that directly correlates to something I'm very used to from watching a lot of film and basketball.
And what I appreciate too is, sorry, cut you off. I've always had the person as a coach who's the cheerleader, like go faster, do this. And he very much is not that. And I asked him about that one day and I said like, hey, well, I thanked him. I said, I really like that you just give me the programming. You're not checking up on me. You're not bugging me. Just give it to me. And his direct quote was, you don't need a cheerleader. You know how to work hard, show up and get it done. And I was like, he's the perfect guy for me. So he's like secretly in my back pocket, but he's been a huge key to my success this past off season.
That's so cool. How do you differentiate as to when you want somebody to check in with you and when you feel like you need that extra attention and love and care and to be seen and heard versus, hey, I don't need that. If I want that, I get that from my family.
Exactly.
How do you kind of differentiate that, with a coach and create supreme trust and buy-in in somebody when you're not really hearing from them often?
I think I've learned I don't want that personally. I had that 2 seasons, and at this season of my life, I don't want that. So I've learned this year what I need is kind of just to work on the mental voice in my head. And I've done that, and it's been peaceful. I don't have any drama, because how can you have drama when there's one other person in the gym and they're just there to work out? That's how I would describe the season, as just peace. Turning on the music. I mean, yeah, go ahead.
It shows.
Thank you.
It shows, like when you're out there, you look very peaceful. You look like you're trusting in your ability.
Right.
And what's also cool is like, I think you have supreme maturity too, where you're not coming out of the gate too hot. It's almost like you're coming out and kind of just getting a taste. You're observing the field a little bit. I know on the bar muscle up workout, you started a little bit slower just to kind of get a feel, and then you pushed the cycle time on the bar muscle ups, and then all of a sudden you were out the door in second and just kind of climbing up the ranks a little bit on that workout. But I think it was cool to see that, at least from my humble lenses there on the side, it was like you were just gaining confidence as the workout went on, and you were like, okay, I'm tired, but I think I can go faster.
Exactly.
I think I can push this a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to really cycle this dumbbell snatch a little bit. And the dumbbell snatch is so tough because you want to like angle and reach back to get into your butt and hamstrings a little bit to get a little help. but sometimes it does lead to that like clunky one head hits as opposed to that clean, just like bilateral dumbbell head hitting the floor. And I know that got you a little bit. Will you discuss that workout a little bit? Because I think you said it was a little bit of a turning point for you. We are beyond excited to be working with Wizard Sciences for total brain and body optimization. This partnership came through personal experience with the benefits of their incredible product line and a deep human connection with their founder and former guest, Ion Mitchell. The Olympic RX supplement is created to enhance your overall training. When taking this, do not expect your body to feel different, but look for key indicators within workouts to see what this product can really do. I found increases in my strength and that I had an extra gear when working through tough cardio sessions. The Olympic contains beta-alanine, removes inflammation and oxidative stress at a mitochondrial level, increases muscle recruitment, and is full of carbon-60, which is considered the ultimate anti-aging and anti-inflammatory weapon available. Give Wizard Sciences a try and become as close to limitless as you can get. Use code Invictus Mindset for 15% off your order. Once again, that's Invictus Mindset for 15% off your order.
It was. So mentally, as I prefaced before, I'm working out in my garage gym with my good friend Joelle. So I don't know until I test the limits of, am I doing enough? Am I fit enough? Am I running fast enough? Am I doing bar muscle ups enough? So that moment, round one, I was just like, okay, everybody's going to do bar muscle ups unbroken. Everybody's going to cycle the dumbbell fast. It's only 35 pounds. And after round one, I felt good and I cycled the dumbbell a little bit faster than those next to me. So I was like, okay, I feel good on the run. Let's pick it up a bit. So that's the whole time it's me in my head. I feel good. Okay, let's try going a little faster. Went a little faster, cycled the dumbbell. There's only one round left. Like, hang on. But the whole time it's me intrinsically thinking, you still feel good. Go a little faster. Oh, your programming is working. You are fit. You can hang with these people. This is great. Go faster. Just like talking the whole time. And the whole games experience, I feel like I built up confidence of your programming is working. You can hang with the athletes in the final heat. Great job. You know what you're doing. Just building up the confidence, because I've been alone in my garage so long. I forget what it's like to compete. And it was amazing to not just show up at the games, but actually compete and be fighting with Alexis for first place in the heat, in the final heat, is just unreal, because I don't compete much. It's only what you see on the floor. So it's fun to have those surprising moments.
That's so cool. I love hearing like the verbal recap. Obviously, we've seen some of it from you and Vellner in the captions, but I like hearing how you guys describe it with like the body language and the animation. And I think you also mentioned, oh man, this is going to crack me up. You were getting ready to take the field or take the Coliseum, and all the girls were wearing spandex, right? The sports bra and the shorts. And what did they say to you?
It wasn't them specifically, so I don't want people to think they're the...
Oh, okay.
But somebody had made a comment like, oh, you look like you're in a mom outfit. You're the mom of the group. And I was just like, I'm here to take the kids to school. And that's all I'm saying. Because I do take a little offense to that, because I'm like, hey, this is what I feel comfortable running in. Like, don't judge my outfit. I'm going to show you that I can put in work on the floor. But it was very much a mom outfit in hindsight.
I love that.
I do too.
When you're looking back at, some of your journey, I think it is important to note that you are a mom. You're finding ways to get it all in. I don't think that needs to be the first part of the conversation. It needs to be you, the human, the person. And there's nothing associated with that should ever downgrade your growth, your potential, and your evolution across, the last few years. However, there's a lot of challenge associated with having a baby. It's not easy. Right. We've talked about it briefly on our previous episode, but how did you navigate that? I mean, you have cognitive perception of how you think your life's going to go. Then, you end up having a baby, which is a lot of work on the body, the mind, the spirit. And then there's this component of, hey, I need to allow my body to heal. I'm adapting to a new lifestyle. We're setting up a new structure, a new routine with my family. But I also kind of want my body back. I kind of want to get back to my old life. I kind of want to do all these things. And I'm no expert, so correct me if I'm wrong. These are just speculation over here.
Right.
But how did you navigate all of that, right? That kind of convolutes the headspace a little bit. It's hard to find a direct path forward.
It was extremely hard. You're right on that. I found out I was pregnant 2018 at regionals, actually. My body felt off. I felt weird. And at the time, my goal was, let's go to the games. And then I could barely handstand walk because, I don't know, body's all weird when you're pregnant. So something was off. And I remember me and my husband were just boyfriend and girlfriend, then dating. So I had a huge identity crisis of, I'm supposed to be a believer, quote unquote. Here I am getting pregnant before marriage. I'm supposed to be a CrossFit Games athlete. I just found out I'm pregnant. I have to retire now. I guess now I have to get married. Everything that I knew about my life kind of came crashing down, and I had to reroute myself in like, who am I? What is important? Because I thought one of my roots was CrossFit, and that kind of just got ripped out. I thought one of my roots was, I just got my MBA. I'm going to be a business professional, but that just got ripped out. Now I'm a mom. So I had to re-ground myself in what's important. So I had my daughter 3 days after birth. I moved from Abilene to Midland, Texas to live with my husband. And so I had to change everything about friend group, family identity. And I had to just rebuild a beautiful life of my family and my husband. But a lot of it was, you can't look in the past and say, oh, I wish this would have happened. This would have happened. I'm very blessed to say that my mindset was very strong. So I was able to look forward and say, what does this new chapter look like? What does my family look like now? What do I want it to look like? What will I look like as a parent, my child? So I just started to reframe my mind around, what do I want my family to look like? Okay, I want to be healthy. I just had my baby. I don't feel like myself anymore. Let's step foot in the gym and start working out again. Let's start eating healthy again. And slowly I started to rebuild the tree, and it's figuratively and in reality, it's blossomed to something I would have never in a million years believed. You told me I would have gotten on the podium, like it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense, but it's beautiful. But I grounded myself on what's important first, and everything else has just been like a beautiful addition.
Wow. What a great recollection. I think it's really important to ask, who am I and what's important? I think those are two really important questions that people can ask, and it's going to change, right? But maybe the better question might be like, who am I in this season or in this moment?
Right.
And what do I want right now? And I love that you took the time to sit with that. And then also it was like, you couldn't build out the entire journey. It was like, what's the next right thing I can do? And it sounds like you leaned into health.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, I need to get myself healthy first.
Yeah. And a lot of moms will reach out to me, which is awesome. They're like, hey, I'm a mom and I want to go to the games. And I was like, step one was never, I want to go to the games, because I had given up on that dream. I'm like, step one is just healthy, eating whole foods, going to the gym. For me, I set the limit of, let's try and go 3 to 5 times a week, and just constantly over time, you're consistent with that, and great things happened. But putting the pressure on yourself to, after you have a baby, I want to go to the games, like that's a huge goal. Let's start small. Go to the gym 3 times a week. Okay, let's up it. Go to the gym 5 times a week, and let's try and maintain that for a month.
No, totally. I'm curious here. There's an association with the mom, right? Where the world starts to use that as the label. And, you hear the term mom fit, you hear the term, all kinds of things associated with that cognitive orientation. But I do think there's an element of like, hey, I just want to be a woman.
Right.
I just want to feel sexy again. I want to pursue what my body's capable of doing. I don't know exactly what that is right now, but at least for this hour to 90 minutes when I'm in the gym, I actually don't want to be mom.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? And what advice would you give to coaches and maybe partners or significant others or boyfriends or husbands in really trying to do the right thing? Because I think it's an attempt to be complimentary when they're like, oh, mom fit, look at you getting after it. And it's like all the things. But I also feel like sometimes, as we discussed previously, it's not well received. It's like, I don't want to be that right now.
That's so funny you say that, because an individual who's awesome and supports me will cheer for me and say, let's go, mama. You're doing great, mama. And my brain instantly goes to, no, I'm not mama right now. Like, I'm Arielle, I'm an athlete, and I'm doing great. You don't have to call me mama. But I think it's hard to say, like, as a mom, it's hard to say, I am not a mom right now. Like, I just want to be a normal person, because we get a little bit of guilt of like, no, I love my kid. How can I say that? But it's healthy to separate yourself and give yourself 1 hour a day to work out, 20 minutes to work out, 30 minutes to work out. It's just hard to say, because a lot of times I say it and I feel like, oh, I don't want my kid to hear that and think I don't love him, because I do. But anything taken too far is unhealthy. Like, I'll go to the playground with some mom friends, and some of them will only talk about their kid the whole time. And I'll say, like, no, what are you doing? What book are you reading? Like, what TV show are you watching as a human, as a person? Because a lot of times they get so lost in their kid, they forget, like, oh, what do I even like to read? What do I even like to watch? And that can happen anything, with work, with CrossFit. Just taken too far, you can lose your identity in it. What can people do to help? Husbands do to help? I think it's important to do stuff without your kids. So for me and Dylan, going to the games is a huge vacation for us, because it's a me and him thing, and we're connecting as how we did when we were dating. Everybody's like, what are you doing for holiday after the games? And I'm like, no, me and my husband just had breakfast 6 days a week together. Like, that's holiday for us. We just slept through the night together in our bed. Like, that's vacation for us. So just doing things that are you, that you love, that remind you of what you love and what's important.
Yeah, totally. How was the challenges with body composition after having a baby and wanting to get back to looking and feeling and performing a certain way? And, what advice would you give to other women that are maybe, on that journey, maybe currently pregnant, maybe postpartum, and trying to find alignment with, how they look and feel?
That's the hardest part, because I had grown up relatively always fit, liked how I looked in shorts and a tank top. And after I gave birth, I was lucky that I gave birth in the winter, so I could wear the baggy winter clothes and nobody would notice. But when summer came around, I had a lot of insecurities of not liking how my legs looked, how my stomach still looked. But I gave myself 9 months grace. I was like, Blakely was in my stomach for 9 months. I'm going to try and work out consistently for the first 9 months of her life, eat relatively well for the first 9 months of her life. And I had moments where I took it too far, as far as like starving myself to look a certain way. And then I was like, no, I'm trying to be healthy. What does health look like? Eating meals, eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, ration out your portions, eat whole foods, and just learning how to eat, not as an athlete, not as a skinny model, but like what fuels me and keeps me healthy. So it was hard, because I never had to lose weight before. So learning what does it take to lose weight was very eye-opening to do it the healthy way.
Did you have anybody that helped support you a little bit? And then what did you do with certain tools, like a mirror, like a human scale, and then also like a food scale? Did those things serve as great tools, or were they potentially triggers?
They were triggers. And I probably for a month, they were extreme triggers to where I would do a little bit of binge eating. And then, oh, I ate too many cookies. I don't like what it did to me. I'm going to try and throw up in the bathroom. And I remember I had a realization moment where I was like, okay, my daughter is in her crib sleeping. Do I want her to see me like this? I was like, no, I need to change something. So being a mom helped me a lot. Like, what do I want my daughter to see? I want her to see that it's okay to have a cookie in moderation, not eat 20 cookies and then put my daughter in the crib so I can go get rid of the 20 cookies. So it was a lot of self-reflection, and I did it very much a horrible way, but I learned how to be healthy coming from that.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. It's not easy to go through some of those experiences, and then dealing with like personal dissatisfaction or disappointment in self is probably harder than any other version of disappointment. Was there a coach or a mentor or somebody that helped guide you through that process? Because with the challenges and the pressures that are felt with, as we discussed previously, social media and looking and feeling a certain way, I think there's a lot of people that go through this.
I do too.
And I think it's kind of swept under the rug and not talked about. And I don't know, a part of me just feels like can I create a safe space for someone like you that has so much knowledge and personal experience with it? Can we elicit tools for people to add to their toolbox and help support their journey?
Yeah. The hardest part for me getting married, having a kid, is I'm very intrinsic with my feelings. So I've had to learn to communicate with other people. So when I went through this period of like learning how to lose weight and not doing it the healthy way, the only thing I knew how to do was keep it to myself and listen to podcasts, keep it to myself and do Googling of like, how do I fix this? How do I change this? And I actually got a lot of help from listening to podcasts and identifying that it's binge eating. You're in starvation mode. You've starved yourself. Now your body gets a taste of food and you get this cannibalistic thing happening where they just want to eat all the food in the cupboard because they're like, when am I going to be starved again? So I was able to actually listen to podcasts, and that helped me identify, work on tools to change it. I'm still working on like asking people for help and asking like, hey, this is what's going on with me, and being vulnerable with people. I wouldn't say I had anybody who helped me guide me in person, but Google and podcasts helped me a lot.
Podcasts are so interesting because it's almost like you put the earbuds in your ear and you can do life. You can do laundry, dishes, you know, other responsibilities, maybe some computer admin work and things like that. But it's almost like you're on the phone with a friend. Mm-hmm. You get used to the voice, and at least the good ones, in my humble opinion, are relatively suggestive. And they're like, hey, I think this thing might be able to help you. And if not, they do what you talked about previously, which is reframing, maybe steering you towards other experts. So it's almost like a domino effect of knowledge, where it's like you get maybe one nugget, but it unlocks the box for the next level of knowledge.
Exactly. And now knowing how I am as an athlete, who am I going to listen to? I'm only going to listen to myself. So I think even then I was discovering something about me. If I can learn about this topic and convince myself to listen to it, like I myself will listen. Versus if you were to tell me, hey, that's not right, don't do this, I'd be like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. But if I can convince myself, it'll work.
I totally align with that. I mean, at the end of the day, you know your body better than anybody else.
Right.
And that's part of the reason why I'm not a huge fan of like experts or the word expert, because it's like we should, in my opinion, be professional mistake makers and lifelong learners. Mm-hmm. And I do think there are parameters, or there's kind of overarching blanket statements that might be supportive or create categories of success for people. But to have specificity around, here's your specific macros, it's like it's case dependent on so many variables.
Right.
And I do think that's important. But here's my next question for you. How did you develop that level of personal accountability and intuition? Because I think a lot of people have a generalized idea of what the right thing is for them. But then if some is good, more is better. So inevitably it's like, you know, hey, if broccoli's good, I'm going to overeat broccoli. That's a poor example, but you kind of get my drift a little bit.
Right. I don't really know where that came from. I think I do have trouble expressing through my mouth, like what I'm thinking in my head and what challenges are going through. So I do internalize a lot and kind of figure it out for myself. I don't know if I was raised that way or if I've always been that way, but that's just how I am.
Clearly you figure it out and you do a great job of it.
Thank you. I try to.
As you have had tremendous success. And when we look back at your very special story, you had a moment where you went to regionals 5 consecutive times, couldn't get over the hump to make the CrossFit Games.
Right.
You end up retiring, starting a family, having Blakely, and then something about the back half of this career where it's just like, I'm back.
Yeah. Sha'Carri Richardson. Do you know who that is? She just won.
Yeah, she just won the 100-meter dash. I saw that the other day.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
She put out a quote that I thought was so good because they're like, Sha'Carri, you're back. How did you do this? And she said, I'm not back. I'm better. And I was like, man, and then she just walked away. And I was like, that's powerful. So that is not me.
That's a mic drop right there.
Yeah. So I'm not back. I'm better. And I have no idea how I came back better, but I'll quote her.
Yeah, she was a stud. I watched that race, I think, last night.
Yeah, and I did too.
She was so fast. And then I believe it was the final heat. She was in the outside lane. Mm-hmm. She wasn't even in like the center. if we relate that to CrossFit, typically the people that are, within the top 3 are in the center lanes,
right?
Typically 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6. And, she was on an outside lane, which I guess is not too much of a hindrance in performance when you're just running straight, but that is a hindrance if you're running, a lap of whatnot.
And mentally as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really cool to see. I love watching some of the track events. I also really enjoy watching the swimming events because it just shows like where people are. You get that side view from the camera. I get all excited, start yelling at the TV.
Well, now that you're 40, I feel like 40-year-olds like to do that. So I get it.
Yeah, seriously. That's awesome. I'm not even going to correct you. I'm just going to let people assume I'm 40.
Just let it happen. No. And I think that's what makes everybody talks about, like, you're so joyous on the field. How do you do it? And like, I know what it's like for 5 years to try and go to the games and not make it. I know what it's like to want to be on the floor, want to have your jersey. So I don't take that lightly because I know every competitive CrossFit athlete wants that. So on the floor, I'm just like, if 18-year-old could see me now in the final heat, in the center lanes, like the important lanes, quote unquote, like she would love this. So just always reminding myself, like, there's thankfulness to be had. This is amazing. Don't get caught up in, oh, you're not in this place. You're not in this place, because just to be there is huge.
Yeah, for sure. What's that famous quote? Former you would have given anything to be where you are now.
Yep, exactly.
And so it is important to, press pause and self-reflect a little bit. And I was having a really cool conversation with Danny Spiegel a few weeks ago. And the conversation was around, so many of us enter the field of play and we're so nervous about the execution of the workout and how it's going to go and how we're going to feel and all the things that we get very narrow-minded, serious vibes. And inevitably, it is important that, like, yes, those things do matter. It's not depreciating their value at all. But it is important to, like, pause and look up for a second. And Cole Sager said this too. I think he was relating it to Wadapalooza, or maybe being in the Coliseum. He was like, there were moments where he walked out and just looked up and just took it all in for a moment. It was like, wow, there's 10,000 plus people here to cheer me on doing the thing that I love with a bunch of my friends.
Right.
That's cool to, like, sit with that. When I say that out loud, what kind of comes to mind and what feelings does it elicit for you?
It's neat because not only do I have that same moment that Danny Spiegel, Cole Sager expressed, but like, I also get paid for this. Not only do I get this cool jersey, I also can support my family as a quote unquote stay-at-home mom. And to me, that's just the coolest thing ever, because I truly feel like I have the best job I could ever ask for. And I went to school for 6 years to get an MBA, but this is by far way better than anything I do using my degree.
I've heard you say it a couple times. I'm going to challenge you for a second.
Okay.
Why does the world not consider a CrossFitter a full-time job, or like a real job, right? Like, people say that often, like, oh, this person's going to their real job, almost as if it's easy to train as a CrossFit athlete. And you and I both know it's not freaking easy.
Right.
To train consistently like you guys do is a huge challenge, and to elicit high-level performance while mitigating injury, removing burnout, and just trying to do the hard thing day after day. I would almost argue a societal real job might be easier, or at the very least different. And I think, like, your role should gain more notoriety and respect. It's impressive. And honestly, if it wasn't, more people would do it. There wouldn't be 20 men and 20 women on each side of the CrossFit sphere that are actually able to make a living. There'd be more people if it wasn't a real job. Right.
No, your point, you get it, but a lot of people don't get it, which is funny because my husband very much gets it. So it's cool that he supports me, as he should, but someone in the family still doesn't get it. And so they're like, oh, Arielle gets paid for that? I wish I could do that. And his response was, you couldn't show up every day in the gym and work as hard as she does. Like, it's not that easy. Chance. Yeah. And I was like, well, thank you. I didn't think of it that way. He's like, it's not just show up at the games, post on quote unquote social media. He's like, it's the showing up every day, the working when no one's watching. There's way more that goes into it than just like the quote unquote paycheck that you see.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation for sure where, back in the day, it was a reward to go to the gym at the end of work or is something that, the hard chargers did it before work. And then the very select few that were self-employed or maybe had some perks in their life could do it midday. But the world isn't the same anymore, right? Most people have an element of their job that they are working at home. And I love the quote, someone busier than you is working out right now. And
That's
when
true.
you relate it to this conversation, like how many people do we know have an old school outdated thought process of, man, it must be great to work out all day. Mm-hmm. You don't actually know what that means when you say that. It's absolute trash to me because it depreciates the level of respect for those that are actually doing it. And it is hard.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, it's something that I think is important to elevate the conversation a little bit and get more people respecting the sport
Right.
and giving it what it deserves.
Yeah. But when I hear those comments, because I've heard those multiple times, I just think the ignorance of it. And so I just smile and I'm like, it's great.
This episode is brought to you by Mush. My friends over at Mush created an incredibly cool product of ready-to-eat overnight oats. And for those of you that listen to the podcast often, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And Mush has done just that, as their products have no more than 7 clean ingredients that are dairy-free, gluten-free, with no added sugar. Mush started right here at Invictus, as they had a vision to create convenient, healthy, and clean nutrition. And this landed them on Shark Tank, where the famous Mark Cuban invested in them. Now they're found in retailers all over the country, including Costco, Sprouts, Target, and Whole Foods. Check out my friends over at www.eatmush.com. Welcome back, everybody. And Arielle, when I look at this season, like you did a lot of things solo. You coached yourself. You've got an incredible family supporting you, an incredible strength coach. But there's also an awesome community that's been around to, be there for the highs and the lows. And when your name gets announced in the field of play, it is not a shortage of cheers. What has your community support been like in 2023?
It's been awesome. I think what's cool, like you said, with the cheers, I had maybe at most 10 people at the games who were from my hometown that came to watch. So it's neat to see like the other CrossFit people that are there, spectators watching, they're cheering for me. And that just means the world that they even know who I am and can cheer for me. But it's neat to see I don't have a lot of the Midland community in my inner circle this year, but they were definitely on my outer circle. So it was cool after I got third place to see all the people that texted me. It was cool coming back to Midland. They threw me a congratulations party and to see all the people who still show up and say like, hey, we watched, we still cried when you got on the podium. So it's neat to see they're still there, even though I don't invite them in my immediate circle in this season.
Yeah, totally. What's the recap process been like? Is it fun for you to kind of sit down and use Instagram as a tool to kind of share and recap? And in the midst of each event, are you taking notes at nighttime so that way all those memories are fresh, or is that legitimate reflection in the Instagram moment?
That's legitimate reflection in the Instagram moment when I'm eating breakfast or at dinner, like not at dinner, but before I go to bed making these. But it's been fun to see like, oh, that did happen on the floor. I forgot about that. Because when we went back and watched and replayed the footage to see where to improve, I didn't get much screen time. And I'm like, oh, people didn't even see me sitting on the mat trying to have my arms recover for the alpaca. I'll throw that in there. Or people didn't maybe notice that backstage I tried to clean 215 and missed it multiple times because I didn't feel great. And then to see me hit 221 and 231, I was so excited. So I'm like, they didn't know that happened before it actually happened on the camera. So it's fun to let people know. And like the one I'm coming out with tomorrow is an event 11 recap. And actually a lot of bad stuff happened on that event that people, I would assume, have no idea until they read it. So it's fun to kind of just let the audience know.
I love that you're creating context and sharing the behind the scenes, right?
Yeah. Which that is for fun, but it's also a business move of like, hey, come to my page, come see what my events were like, and come get inside my brain and be a follower, quote unquote, or see how I think. It's like business move. I'm trying to do it, but also just for the fans and the friends out there to see.
Yeah. And we're here for it. I think that's the future, right? Is sharing the authentic behind the scenes, not just the highlight reel.
Right.
And I could be wrong, but I believe Heber and Mars were following you around a good amount.
They were.
And kind of documenting some of that. How was it having them alongside for the ride?
They were fun. I actually I like Mars too, but Heber, I don't know if it's because we kind of have similar lives as far as having a real life, and then we come to this CrossFit world. But me and him connect a lot, and I really like talking to him. But also backstage was Craig Ritchie and his, I think, wife. They were a lot of fun backstage as well, because they're not from America, and you can tell by their humor and their jokes and their accent. So it was fun to get to know them a little better. Because like he expressed he ate this really good barbecue place, and so I gave him crap all weekend because with his barbecue they served him steamed broccoli. And I'm like, no good barbecue place is going to have broccoli on their menu if it's not fried or battered or something. That was fun.
Oh man, that's awesome. And one of the things I connect with Heber a lot about is cold plunging.
Oh, really?
And I saw that you are not a big fan of the cold plunge. What was your experience like with that?
I did it with Alex Gazan for the first time ever. When I trained for her for Wadapalooza, we were on team together. And we had mentally just pushed hard in a really hard workout. And then we were stepping in the cold plunge. And I swear I wasted so much mental energy for 3 minutes just sitting in there, like talking yourself down from, I'm going to get out. This is horrible. This sucks. And it's like deep breaths. And it's a mental energy that I'd never tapped into. And I was like, I don't want to waste any mental energy if it's not in the gym. But some people love it.
Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people.
You're one of those people? We did actually.
Do you think?
Oh, go ahead.
I love it. It's one of those things that you talked about, the intrinsic self-talk. And I think that's a great place to do it. That's low impact. You get a huge return on investment for a low time association, like 2 to 3 minutes. You can get a really great bang for your buck.
Right.
And I'm a huge fan. I like seeing the skepticism on your face. You're like, that thing sucks.
But I know the science behind it, and I know how good it is for you. I'm just not there yet.
I love your honesty. Was there a moment this weekend? Like we talked a lot about some of the high moments. Was there a moment this weekend where the self-doubt did creep in? Where you were like, you know what? Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe my programming isn't working. Where you were a little bit hard on yourself and kind of just in the psychology lab, just kind of trying to work through some of the lower moments.
You know what? I don't have any that comes to mind. All weekend went good, or if it went bad, it still went better than it could have been. So I don't have any moment where I was like, crap, am I supposed to be here? Can I hold on to third? It was just so lighthearted of, 17th in the sandbag? That could have gotten a lot worse because I could have dropped it here. So I'm thankful that I at least got 17th. And my goal ultimately for the games was to not get lower than a top 20 finish. So I never had to have the reality check of, this was a horrible event. It crushed me, because in my opinion, all the events went great and I felt extremely prepared.
That's awesome. Are you a leaderboarder? Is it something that you like to look at during the event, or do you do it at the end?
I do it at the end of the day. The sandbag event, me and Dylan got in a fight backstage because I was like, okay, I'm really proud of how the sandbag event went. I did the best I could. And he was like, do you want to know what place you got? And I don't like looking at the leaderboard, because if I'm proud of my effort, that's all I need at the end of the day when I'm mentally prepared for it. Tell me what place I got and we can deal with it then or be excited then. Because if I'm proud of my effort, that's all I need. So then he told me, he's like, you got 17th. And I was like, man, I'm so proud of the effort, but 17th I'm not proud of. And I was like, you know me. Please don't do that again in the future. Mentally, I'll handle it. But right now I've got to warm up for Helena, and I don't want to think about what I could have, should have done. I could do that in the evening. So yeah, I'm not a leaderboarder till the end of the day, when mentally, like, there's nothing I can do about it, and I need to stay like focused throughout each event.
I think that's really smart, not allowing some of those external triggers in, especially when you're about to go back out for the heat of battle.
Right.
You have a pretty good short-term memory where, you know, you're able to let go of things from previous events or, you know, things that may have been bothering you. You're like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to be upset or let it bother me for a quick second. Now I'm going to let it go and move on.
I do as soon as I step on the floor. Backstage, it's harder. But one thing, going back to the leaderboarding, the one time I did leaderboard that I legitimately needed to know was going into the final event. And it was really hard for me. My PT friend Jody was there. And she's like, Arielle, you need to know the leaderboard. You have one event to go. You're still in podium contention. You need to know who to beat and all this. And part of me was like, don't tell me. I was like, I can't know. I'm not mentally ready for it. And she's like, no, I'm sorry. You need to know what needs to happen. And then that's when she told me I was 70 points up and all the emotions kicked in of like, you can do this as long as you don't get last place. You will be fine. So at some points, it is a need to know. And mentally, it was really hard for me to know.
Yeah, totally. When did you know that it was going to be a special weekend? Like, was there a pivotal moment specifically that you're like, I am performing to close to my peak potential? This is going to be one for writing a book one day.
Writing a book. Maybe a kid's book. But definitely
Maybe.
After Helena, which was the first pivotal moment, was, okay, my worst event that should have destroyed me was the sandbag ski, and it wasn't that bad. And then I came back and got fourth place. And then after the lifting, where it just went great, I was like, this is special. Great things will come of this weekend. Like, God's not going to let all this great stuff happen. And then guess what? I got 10th. It's like, this weekend is way too special. Everything is going right. He will finish what he started.
Especially the overcoming of adversity, missing 215 in the back. And then did you mention you hit 231 out there? Was that your final lift?
Final lift. Yeah, I missed 215 because fatigue. I would stand it up and I was like seeing stars because I was lightheaded. So the snatch was no worries. It's going to go great. Still nervous, but the clean was extremely nerve-wracking and self-doubt. And yeah, a lot of that.
What did it feel like holding the American flag behind your back, standing on the podium?
Extremely special because it's the American flag. But what made it more special, have you heard how we got the flag?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so after the pig event where we flipped the pig, I had taken my grips off and went to Lost and Found to find them because I couldn't find them anywhere. And in Lost and Found after event 2, folded up in the right-hand corner was an American flag, like perfect triangle American flag on the start of the competition weekend. And me and my husband made a comment to each other, like, who leaves an American flag? Who folds it up so perfectly, and why is it just in the corner? And so we go and we do the handstand walk event. We come back, and it's still in the expo center in Lost and Found. And Dylan's like, what the heck? The flag is still there. He's like, at the end of the weekend, if you're on the podium, that's your flag. God put it there for you. So we do the whole weekend. We are about to walk for event 12 to the Coliseum to finish the weekend. And it was a really special moment of like Dylan telling me and my PT saying like, hey, you're 70 points up. All you have to do is do fitness and you'll be on the podium. And it makes me emotional now. But there was a moment where Dylan was like, you stay here with Jody. I'm going to go grab the flag. And it just confirmed that like that flag was still there and Lost and Found. And that's the exact one I held on the podium. And that's when all the emotions hit me. Once they announced I was on the podium, I kind of went numb and was like, this is great. But all the like feels and the crying and the hugs and the proud moments were after event 11, when he grabbed the flag and like me and my team walked over to finish what we had done all weekend. It was so special.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's also just amazing to hear you talk about it and seeing the organic emotion of, so much sacrifice went into this and so much effort. And I'm sure it wasn't always rainbows and butterflies, but you do such a great job of just leaning into the positive. You acknowledge that there's challenging moments, but they don't get to live rent-free between your ears. The irony of the flag and hearing the role of that is just,
amazing.
It gives me goosebumps to think about.
Yeah. And the specialness of this season was very private, but my best friend who I've known since I was 15, since 2015, who I told first I was pregnant, has been with me for this journey. She was there, and then my husband was there, and we had this special moment with like the three of us together, and then I got to celebrate with everybody else. That's like the most special moment to me. And of course, standing on the podium was great. Holding the flag was great, but the specialness of when it all sunk in was awesome.
If this could be like a chapter in your book, what would you title this chapter?
Oh, it would probably have something to do with like the victory banner or peace, something to where there's like a flag and I'm like holding up my victory banner, something like that.
I love that, Arielle.
But every year I walk away from the games and I'm like, man, the season went so great. How could it get better? Last year, I won an event. The season went great. How could it get better? And this year I'm blown away that I still get to say that. And I have no idea what that means for next season, but it's cool to like keep getting better and surprising yourself.
Yeah, it's incredible to see your growth trajectory. And as we talked about before, you're not back. You're better.
That's right. I love it.
As we wrap things up, if you could give advice to other people on this journey about trusting the process, doing the hard things when nobody's watching, and continually staying on the path towards what makes your heart light on fire, what would maybe be some of the advice that you would share with people?
For me personally, is setting realistic goals. Because for me, if I dream too far ahead, I get overwhelmed and like scared of what's to come. So I would just say set realistic goals. For me, when I was first had Blakely, it was eat a vegetable at every meal and go to the gym 5 times a week. And if I did that for a month, great, try and do it for 2 months. Before, it was show up in the home gym, do your cardio piece, do your strength session. Now it looks a little bit different, but set realistic personal goals that you can do, and then you'll surprise yourself with the outcome.
I love that. I almost think of it as like aiming low, because if you aim too high, it's not going to lead to any sort of consistency or compliance.
Exactly.
I love it. Thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing some of the behind the scenes with the recap of the 2023 CrossFit Games, some of your specific journey, some of the really great advice around food and deconstructing who you are and what you want during some of the most pivotal moments of your life. It was very special to connect with you and see you light up around some of these really incredible storytelling moments.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I always love chatting with you.
For sure. Are we going to get to see you at Rogue this year?
That's the plan. I figured out the higher you place on the leaderboard at the games, the sooner they invite you. Usually I have to wait till like September 15th to say like, am I going? Will it happen? But I found out really soon after the games. So that is that's what I'm looking forward to next. So hopefully in Austin, if everything feels good and healthy.
Very cool. We look forward to seeing you out there. Best of luck. Stay injury free. Keep having fun and enjoy time with Dylan and Blakely.
Thank you. Thanks, Bryce.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed my conversation with the fittest American woman and the third fittest woman on the planet, Arielle Loewen, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time. We are beyond excited to be working with Wizard Sciences for total brain and body optimization. This partnership came through personal experience with the benefits of their incredible product line and a deep human connection with their founder and former guest, Ion Mitchell. I also love the Neural RX, which I take before every podcast. Some of the benefits I experience when taking the Neural are enhanced memory and focus, supercharged learning and knowledge absorption, along with enhanced creativity and innovation. Break free from mental blocks, tap into your imagination, and watch your creativity soar to new heights. Give Wizard Sciences a try and become as close to limitless as you can get. Use code Invictus Mindset for 15% off your order. Once again, that's Invictus Mindset for 15% off your order. Are you over 35 and in need of a solid training program? Are you looking to improve your athleticism and keep up with the younger athletes in your CrossFit gym? Then look no further than our Invictus Masters program. This program places year-round emphasis on mobility and stability exercises with movements that we have seen directly benefit our Masters athletes. Our program is led by Nicole DeHart and offers a training program designed specifically for Masters athletes who are looking to compete at a higher level in the sport of CrossFit. Some of our top Masters athletes in the world train with us, including CrossFit Games champion Kevin Kester, Matt Beals, and Pat Sprague. You can learn more about their stories and the Invictus Masters program by checking out their episodes right here on the Invictus Mindset Podcast. If you'd like more information about the current training cycle or to join the Invictus Masters program, please email Nicole at invictusathlete.com. That's NICHOLE at invictusathlete.com.